Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1337 to 1338 for the 22nd to 23rd of October for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. So basically for the past 2 days, the geolocations, the frontline changes is up to the frontline changes report. The rest of the reporting is from the past 2 days. The war is currently ongoing for the day of 1339. So so just understand what you are watching actually. So there is a Ukrainian Sukhoi 27 that got shot down according to the Russian Defense Ministry. They reported this in the 22nd report. So not super important, but it is a very rare thing nowadays to see planes getting shot down because not many is operating nowadays. We go on to we will start from the south as usual nowadays because I think it's faster to reach to the Pokrovsk region and the Zaporizhia, where I think the more interesting offensive is currently happening. Ukrainians has reported continued attack over in Dachi region, with Russian forces continue to attack the Antonovsky Bridge region. Shelling is reported at Mikhailsky, Antonivka and Belozerka according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So strategically, nothing have changed. It's still pretty much more or less the same thing. So that's all. We go on to the Zaporizhia front, where the Zaporizhia offensive, you can, if you want to put it, although it doesn't feel like one offensive, it feels like 3 different offensive in Zaporizhia region. So over in the Kayamsky sector, so this is the Kayamsky sector, fighting is reported over in Stepove, and Plavny, as well as Stepnohursk, and towards Primorsky, which is over here. The Ukrainians have actually claimed to have taken back most of the grounds in Stepnohursk. They claim that they have taken all these areas here. A very interesting claim. We cannot verify these claims yet, so we shall just wait for more information as it comes. Strategically, nothing much have changed. The Russians continue to conduct this offensive operation along the Dnieper River, which is over here. This is the Dnieper River, and then the Ukrainians do this counterattack in this sector. Very interesting as well. We shall see how this goes, whether they will be able to have the same level of success they claimed over in the Pokrovsk front in the breakout zone. Over in the ORIKHIV sector, in the ORIKHIV sector, the Russian forces have massive breakthrough in north of Robotine. I have mentioned that this is very likely to happen, and it had happened. Geolocation of Russian forces confirmed that the Russian forces have taken a very advanced line north of Robotine and northwest of Verbove, and all these areas is now Russian control. This line here, this is a Russian claim according to the Russian mapping. And then fighting is reported at Malatomashka, Novodanilivka, and Novoandrievka. The 3-pronged attack continues through Malatomashka in the south, as well as towards Novoandrievka. So this is a Ukrainian drone attack on Russian defensive position. So the Russians have already advanced to that position as they push the front line forward. So tentatively, what we're going to be watching is whether the Russians will continue to storm forward and capture Novodanilivka, and as well as the rest of Malatomashka. So that is the main thing that we will be watching for at this sector. Moving out from ORIKHIV, over at the Huyaipole sector, the Russian forces continue their offensive in the eastern flank of the Huyaipole sector at the Zaporizhia front. So can I zoom in? No, not really. So okay, so this is Huyaipole, and fighting is reported over in Melanivka, Petrovka, Okonishe, Novomykolaivka, Novovasilievske, Novokhrihorevka, Palivka, Privyone, Uspenivka, Novouspenivske, Rybine, as well as what is the name for this place? Slahoda, so also known as Peshotrevneve, of Peshotrevnev. I'm not sure how do you pronounce that. Russian forces captured Palivka as they continue to push in. They are crossing the river already and they are doing the flanking operation from the north. They are trying to consolidate the position, killing off this salient here. They have straightened the front line at Okiniche, and they are continuing this operation. This is a general flanking operation in the north, and the Russians are now starting to push out from Pokrovsk, and fighting still remains at Melanivka. Probably Ukrainians are counterattacking in this sector here. This is my guess. This is not reporting from the reports, but just my guess because of the lack of advance by the Russian forces. So maybe the Ukrainians are trying to push the Russian back to hold the front line here so that they will protect Huaypole. However, the flanking operation from the north is going to threaten the Ukrainian positions anyway. So Ukrainians would have to react in the north. If they don't, this is a pretty good defense line. And if they waste this defense line, then the rest of the areas is just 3 lines. It's going to be a bit more harder to defend, I would imagine. So that's all from the Huaypole sector. We move further up north to the Komar front. So this is the Komar front. Komar is over here. Soon we're going to change the name soon. I'm not sure what's the good name for this area here. Maybe just Dnipro front, maybe. So in this sector here, fighting is reported over in Vishneve, Verbove, Oleksievka, Stepove, Kalinivske, Sosnivka, Orestopil. There is geolocation of Russian forces at Novoselivka, Alexandrograd, Iskra, Zeleny High. Russian forces geolocated inside of Ivanivka, and fighting is reported there with the Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Ivanivka. And geolocation of Russian forces at Filia. Fighting is at Filia as well as Dashne. So Russian forces claim capture of Ivanivka. There is already evidence of Russian forces entering Ivanivka. So I believe we're going to have more frontline changes or intel coming out from Ivanivka to confirm the capture. There is still this very vague front line along this line here, where the Russians are still seemingly trying to consolidate the position, or maybe the Ukrainians have been continuously trying to counterattack in this sector, causing fighting to be continuing along this line of front line. Russians are pushing towards Aristopil. Capturing Aristopil allowed the Russians to head to the rear position of this forest to enable them to take out this forest region. And then in the south, the Russians are starting to push north as well. Oleksievka is to push to the rear of Orestopil. You can see the double flanking operation and the push westward. But the line around Stepove and Kalinivske maybe is not clean. The Ukrainians may be operating still in the rear positions, which is why the Russians are still being mentioned by the Ukrainians to be fighting in this sector as they try to clear the back line. So, but we have already seen a huge improvement in terms of the fighting reports. Like we have no reports at Shifneve, Voskresenka, Merne, Pipdotne, Melievka, Shomishvacha, Novokiyohievka, Zaporizhzhia. Like no, these are usually what the Ukrainians tend to report fighting to be at, but the lack of the reporting that fighting in this region does show that the Russians have consolidated these positions in the Komar front as they're starting to push forward. And the more consolidated they are, I think the more stronger the forward push is going to be. I will still say the main push is probably going off this direction, north of the Zaporizhzhia Oblast. There's a geolocation of a Russian airstrike on Ukrainian position at Yehorivka. So that's something. Actually, this is Yehorivka. I was looking for Yehorivka just now. So Yehorivka. Yeah, just now I was looking, but I was looking for Novo Yehorivka. There's a Yegorovka here. So there must be a report of attack here. Yeah. So let's update this to 23. Yeah. Sometimes the mapping can be very confusing sometimes. So too many locations I need to track. I believe I saw a Novo Yehorivka, but I don't know where is it. I cannot find it. But anyway, that's all from this Komar front. Hope this is interesting. we're going to go on from this front line to the Pokrovsk front. Welcome to the Pokrovsk front. This is Pokrovsk, and this is Minokhrad. And Minokhrad reminds me, I just watched History Legends' latest report, and every time he say Minokhrad, he need to like make this emphasis. Mirnokhrad. Yeah, Mirnokhrad. So anyway, Mirnokhrad. Okay, so fighting is reported in this sector. Sorry, this evening I'm starting to have my itchy nose back again. Those that long time with me, you probably know that I have this itchy nose problem sometimes. Not sure today why it's so itchy nose. So anyway, fighting is reported over in Novosibirsk. Geolocation of Russian forces at Molodetsk confirmed the Russians advance in that sector, fighting at Udashne, Kotline, push towards Serhiyevka, push towards Krishiny, maybe coming from Pokrovsk, fighting at Vivrove. Russian forces continue to advance further inside of the middle of Pokrovsk. And Russian forces appear in the south of Pokrovsk, which means that the Russian forces have actually penetrated northward from Pokrovsk, in the south of Pokrovsk, from the Novopalivka region. Fighting is reported at Lysivka, Mykolaievka, Khrodivka, Promin, and then Minokhrad. This one here, this is a Ukrainian disclaim, so the salient is closing. Novoekonomichny, Cheveny Liman, Rodinsky, with the Russian forces capturing a bit more. Geolocation at Zatishok of Russian forces. So that is the main picture of the Pokrovsk front in this area here. So with this advance in the south, the Russian forces has confirmed to have captured quite a number of towns, including Novoukrenka, I forgot what the hell is this one, Chohushine, as well as Novopalivka. 3 towns has been confirmed to have been captured. I haven't marked it on the map. I should mark it after this recording. Russians continue to advance inside of Pokrovsk, maybe towards Khrushchine. The flanking operation in the north continues with the Russians having a presence in Rodinsky as already. Straightening front line in the east of Promin continue to this is part of the operation to create a war in the east of Minokhrad, which is already pretty successful. This one now is the aim is to probably try to war up the south of Minokhrad. So this is part of the operation to do that. The Russian forces is now pushing out probably to establish the border between Dnipro or Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk. This is currently happening. The push towards the north for Serhiyevka and Krishine is a bit unclear from this position. I would imagine it's probably still a bit static, this line here, but we shall wait for more information. Otherwise, yeah, the situation in Pokrovsk is falling apart for the Ukrainians. There are feelings that the Ukrainians have withdrawn from the south of Pokrovsk already as they try to hold the line in the north. And they are losing the southeast of Minokhrad as well. So things is really getting really bad, and the retreat route is a bit cut off now. Like the Russians have already cut off the road in the north, cut off the road to the west, cut off the road to Khrushchine as well. So the all 3 roads is cut off. The Ukrainians, if they withdraw, would have to go through the farmlands, which is going to be a pain in the ass for the Ukrainians to do so. So that is the current situation. I know, a lot of arrows, very complicated, but get used to it. So we push up to the Pokrovsk breakout zone, also known as previously as the Evil Rabbit front. The Evil Rabbit is already gone, so there's no more Evil Rabbit. So you can see the arrows are still below. Russian forces continuing into the Pokrovsk front. Fighting is reported at Belitsky, Nikandorivka, Novotoretsk, Volodymyrivka, Shakove, Sofievka, Rusinya, Stepanivka, towards Mykolaipilia. This is part of the Konstantinivka front. Shelling at Toretsk. Fighting is reported at Kusherivya and Zolotikolosias. Ukrainian forces counterattack at Kusherivya as well as Novi Shakove, with most of Kusherivya taken by the Ukrainian forces. Ukrainians also claim to have taken all of Zolotikolosias, Robizne, and Petrivka. So there might be a bigger Ukrainian success in this in the north of the Pokrovsk breakout zone. Counterattack at Shakove also claims to have taken a bit more grounds in this southern position. Russians, however, is pushing towards Shakove in the same direction, which is kind of weird. Both are pushing east. So in essence, I would say that this northern breakout zone is still very vague. It's still very vague. The Ukrainian counterattack south is half confirmed. The other half is unclear because the Russians could be still pushing up north. So that is one thing. The operation to push up and take all of this chain of settlements continue. Ukrainians are counterattacking in, while the Russians are pushing out to Belitske towards Torpopilia. So that's happening. Pushing towards Mykolaipilia is not so clear. This line usually is pretty static. I would imagine the same for Stepanivka. So tentatively, there is the situation over in this sector here in the rest of the Pokrovsk front. As we're going to push towards the east towards the Konstantinivka front. So we go to Konstantinivka front. So this is Konstantinivka over here. This is Konstantinivka. So Russian forces are fighting over in Alexandro-Shchitine, Ivanopilia, Plishievka, Klebanbik, Katerinivka, Shibinivka, and Alexandro-Kalinove. Russian forces claim a lot of regions. There is only one confirmed region where the Russian forces confirm to have basically more or less closed up the gap, which leads to the Ukrainian salient at the Shibinivka. So Russian mapping also continued to claim a lot more grounds as they allegedly straightened all the front line at Alexandro-Kalinove all the way to Alexandro-Shchitine. So the parallel universe is very deep in this area here. So if you look at our mapping compared to the deep state US mapping, it's going to be no sky and earth. It's going to be very, very different. So the current operation, I think, is still pretty much the same. The Russians are trying to consolidate this position to close off this salient, to take out the salient, gain full control of the south of the reservoir, the Klebanbik reservoir, which the Russian Defense Ministry did claim that they have already taken. This line here, north of Alexandro-Kalinove, is straight, is the static line. And the Russians are now consolidating this position in the southeast of Konstantinivka, as they are expanding the wall. They have already some part of the wall done, but they are trying to establish further as they're trying to create the southern wall as well. So the operation is now evolving for the Russians in the Konstantinivka region. As they continue to push forward, they are able to start to maneuver a bit more. There is also fighting reported at Mykolaiivka in the Bakhmut front, but this one is pretty much nothing burger for now, not very important, as the more important operations is coming in the south. So that's all from the Konstantinivka front. We move on to the Bakhmut front. And Bakhmut front, in the northernmost flank, there's some fighting, but this is more related to the Siversk front situation. So I'm going to swing to the Liman Siversk front. So Liman is over here. There is nothing over at Torske. So I'm going to push it down a bit so we can see Vasyukivka. So this is Siversk. Over the Siversk front, fighting is reported at Yampil, Dronivka. It could be from two sides. Serebryanka, Siversk. Geolocation confirming Russians advance in the east, west of Verkhovno-Kanyamske. Fighting is at Vimka, Fedorivka, Pazeno, and Vasyukivka. So the Russians are trying to create a wall on the east of Siversk. They are still doing the northern flanking operation to capture Dronivka. They are trying to capture Yampil and then to go towards the south of Liman. The southern operation continues with push from Vimka, and it looks like the Russians have stopped tentatively off Zvanivka. They are now starting to push, and expand this zone of control in the southern south of this Kuzminivka, around the Vasyukivka region, probably to create a stronger buffer zone and probably allow them to hit through to the countryside into maybe Kaliniki, or maybe into the rear position, cutting off the logistic route. That is also possible. But then this is still pretty premature to say if this is going to be the case. I'm just saying that if they push in this direction, these are the things that they can do. But there is no frontline changes to indicate a clear offensive. So all this fighting report, we can only take it with a pinch of salt. So, and talking about salt, people who got older eat a lot more salt. So happy birthday to you if your birthday today. And we move further up north to the Orikhiv front. So this is Orikhiv front. The Orikhiv is over here. So at the Orikhiv front, fighting is reported at Shandrikholove, Novoselivka, Darilove, Drubisheve, Stavki, and Zarishny. There is some frontline change at the north of Stavki with the Russians now pushing down. And I did mention many times Stavki is a objective by the Russians. They are hitting it from both sides. Previously, they are pushing through Mirny as well. And the main operation is to capture Novoselivka and Drubisheve. From Novoselivka, they will push towards Sviatohursk. And this is the main operation to capture Sviatohursk for a PR victory. Perry retarded. Otherwise, as I said, this is a static line, and you can clearly see there's no report of fighting in this area here. So you can get why I always say that is a static line, because usually there's nothing much happening over this sector. So that's it. So the main line is mainly towards Sviatohursk. Moving further up north to the Borova front. At the Borova front, we have fighting reported at Nadia, Novoserhiyevka, Shivkivka, and Senkove. It could be shelling though. And this is a bit of an unusual situation. The Russians now is making a little bit more push here. This is a bit interesting. We shall keep a lookout for whether this becomes something serious. This sector here, let me draw a bigger arrow. Like, this is a bit unusual. So let's see how this goes. Shikivka is mentioned on the 22nd. Novoserhiyevka is mentioned on the 22nd. So it could be a one-off. 23 on the 23rd, it was not mentioned. 23rd only mentioned this Nadia. So, but I mean, there's a bit more actions here. So let's see. Nothing over in this south of Zarizove, which is why I always say this is pretty static line in this sector. Senkove, yeah, I don't think too much about that for now. So that's all. Borova continue to be very quiet, relatively speaking. We go on to the Kupiansk front. This is Kupiansk city, where the fighting is currently ongoing. Geolocation of Ukrainian tank was destroyed in the south of Kupiansk. Fighting is reported at Petropavlivka, Pischane, Stepova, Novoselivka, and Kurilivka. And fighting is reported at Velika Shapkivka. This push towards the river remains to be the main thing. This is a static line, don't expect too much. And the battle for Kupiansk is the main highlight for this front line. No new updates from the previous updates. This push towards Velika Shapkivka, I don't think that is going to be a major operation. It's probably just some defensive operation to prevent Ukrainian flanking operations. So I think that's probably what it is. So yeah, so that's all. Pretty straightforward situation. It may be straightforward, but I think the battle is quite fierce. Over in the Voreshna front, there is no operation of fighting around Voreshna. No, there's usually a push out from Voreshna. There isn't anything for the past 2 days. However, the Russian forces is geolocated inside of Bolehivka, where the Russians have advanced in this sector, fighting at Stroivka, Kanyamka, and Koloziazny. Could be also coming from Odradny direction. The main operation here is to take out this salient, which I usually call it the corner. Or maybe the corner. Wrong color. Looks like this. Yeah, this is more like corner-ish. So yeah, they're trying to close up this corner. So let's see how this goes. Otherwise, there's nothing else in the Milove sector. We move on from this area to the Kharkiv front, or the Kharkiv front. At a wider Kharkiv front, the Derhachi is mentioned. Again, But this is very far away from the front line as usual. I'm not gonna pay too much attention to that. In the Voschansk sector, Russian forces has been geolocated in a new position, showing the Russian advance in the western part of Voschansk. Russian mapping continue to claim even bigger area of control, as well as in the Taikei region, with the Russian forces also mentioning much bigger control, and fighting is moving into Vochansky Kotori. So the push in this western flank continues. I think if the Russians really break through to this line, they could potentially go for Vilcha and totally ignore the eastern part of Voschansk and bring the battle into the rear positions, which the Ukrainians may be weaker. That is a possibility. And if the Russians break through in Vochansky Kotori, if let's say their claim of capture of Taikei is true, they can also do a second prone attack from the other side, and the entire front line may collapse in an unexpected way. So, but tentatively, let's see how the Ukrainians perform. Maybe the Ukrainians is able to hold the line. And for the pro-Ukrainians that are watching to this point, kudos to you to be able to absorb so much emotional damage. It must be difficult. But there is really not much positive news for the Ukrainians. And I don't like to lie. So, in fact, I don't lie, as if I can. So, yeah. Because lying takes a lot more energy than not lying. So, like you have to remember your lie so that you can be consistent. I am not a person who shock my dog with a shock collar, because I'm not the kind of people, and I don't own a dog. So, I'm not that kind of people. So, I don't need to remember that I actually have no dog and I actually have no shock collar. Like, it's very confusing, So anyway, that's it. We move further up to the last front line, the Sumy front. Sumy front, this is Sumy. At the Sumy front, we have fighting being reported over in Vereshchine, Kozakivka, Novosibirsk, Krapishivka, Kapishchina, Kotin, Kindrativka, Stepney, Iskra, Kivshivna. Is it? Yeah. Iskrikishina. Why I suddenly cannot pronounce that word? Iskrikishina. Iskrikishina. Freak. I suddenly I use up all my credits of saying Ukrainian names. I run out of credits, so I cannot pronounce it anymore. So Iskrikishina, Kapishkishina. So anyway, don't pay too much mind to all these places. This is a static line. This is just a buffer zone operation. I don't think there's any offensive. So don't worry too much about it. So that's all from the Sumy front. And that's it. So, that's not that's it. Over in the Chernihiv region, so this is out of the front lines. There is a mention of a Novoselivka by the Russian Defense Ministry in the Chernihiv region. Novosyolovka probably is this border town, border village over here. Clearly you can look at the terrain here. The Ukrainians will not be able to defend it properly, so it could be an attack in that sector. Shelling is also reported at Novhorod-Sivitsky. So that is a bit of a unusual report from the Russian Defense Ministry. Tentatively, no threat of Russian incursion into Chernihiv region in a big way. So don't worry too much about it for now. So that's it. So this is the SITREP for the day of 1337 to 1338 for 22nd or 23rd of October for the Ukraine war, or the specially torpedoes in Ukraine. So I use up my credit to speak Ukraine word. So I cannot speak Ukraine. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Happy birthday to you if your birthday today, in case you didn't hear me the first time round, and I'll see you guys in the next update.